Hey there, and welcome to this video on how to play Rogue Cell. I'm Jado, and I'm the lead designer for the game, and I'm so glad that you're interested in learning how to play. Let's begin by covering setup. So Rogue Cell is a game all about surviving the harsh reality of the microscopic world, where there's this crazy battle that is going on every single day that we don't see between different species of bacteria and other microorganisms. All of the rules in Rogue Cell are here to try to facilitate a little taste of what that might be like. So we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna set up the board here first. Now, the most important thing for you to know are about these two scales that are right here. And we have one that's labeled CFU and one that is labeled difficulty scale. Now, CFU, this is your life bar. You guys, as players together, all of you share this life bar. At the beginning of the game, you're going to take one of these transparent pips and you're just going to place it right on top of that 1000. And as you play the game, you might lose CFU as you're harmed by the environment or other bacteria. And every time you do, you just move the pip down the track here all the way down to 100. And if you lose that last 100, then it's game over and you guys are destroyed. So try to avoid that if you can. The other track here is the difficulty scale. This tells you how many levels that you've completed. Most of the time you're going to start at level 1. If you have 3 to 4 players, you'll just put that transparent token right there on the 1. If you have 5 to 6 players though, because you have a lot of people working together, you're going to start at level 2 instead, where the game's just a little bit harder, just to balance things out. So that's really all you need to do to set up the board on here. The next thing that you're going to want to do is you're going to want to take this cloth bag here that's included in the game, and you're going to want to put some tokens in there. You can refer to the instruction manual about how many tokens you put in because that is dependent on how many players you are playing with. So be sure to check the rules to tell how many tokens are put into this bag here. This is called the Vacuole Bag. It's named that because this is a structure inside of cells that's used to store things. And in this case, you're going to be storing what are on the tokens. We'll get back to those tokens in a second. For now, let's move on to setting up your first level. Okay, so setting up a level is super easy. The first part of a level is this board here. This is the environment board, and this represents the microscopic environment that you guys, as a colony of bacteria collectively, are floating throughout or exploring and trying to find resources. So you'll see that we've got a couple of different spots here, notably these ones with the white outlines and the colorful tokens inside. Those are called resource tiles. And what we're going to do is we're going to take resource tokens and we're going to put them on top of each of the tiles there. Now, it's really important that you get the right number of the right types of resource tokens. So let me go over those real quick. You're going to want to take 2 green ones, 1 purple one, 4 red ones, 4 blue ones, and at last, 1 silver one. You're going to want to take all of them, flip them over, and then just kind of start mixing them up, right? And make sure that you kind of shuffle them as best you can. And then what you do is you're going to take each of them and you're just going to place them face down so that the white side is up and you don't actually see what color each of the tokens are. This is super important because as you play the game, you're going to explore this board and you're going to try to find the resources that are really helpful while trying to avoid the ones that are going to hurt. And you don't really know which one is which until you move over one of them and pick them up. But we'll go over that a little bit later when we look at what you can do on your turn. So that's the first part about setting up this board for a level. The next thing that you want to do is you're going to want to take these other tokens here that are red and have the crossed out sign on them, and you'll see on the environment board there are some tiles that are labeled with a number. And what you'll do is you'll take this die here that's included with the game and you're just going to roll it 4 times, and you're going to place one of these tokens on each of the tiles that corresponds with the number that you rolled. So for example, let's say I rolled 2, 4, 6, and 8. multiples of 2. So this one here has a 2 on the tile, so I'd put this guy here, and the 4 is right next to it there. The 6 is here, and 8 is right there. And so what these tokens do is they act as obstacles. So you can't move into those tiles until the end of this level. And you're going to, basically every time you start a new level, you'll roll the dice again and you'll move those tokens around, and it'll create different obstacles as you play. Alright, so we're almost done setting up our first level here. The only thing left to do is to draw the enemy cards and the environment cards. So let's start with environment cards. This is the environment card here, and what happens is when you draw one of these, you'll be given the name of an environment and a list of effects at the bottom here in this orange space. These environment cards apply these special effects to the game that lasts until you beat the level. If you are a new player or you're playing with a lot of new people, you can consider leaving this part of the game out while people are kind of getting used to things. So you'll want to draw one of these, and you can just place it next to the board wherever, somewhere where everyone can kind of see it or quickly look at it. Now the next types of cards that you're going to want to draw are the enemy cards. These guys are the stars of the show. These are enemy microorganisms that are already living in the environment, and they are not really happy to see the players show up. So you guys are going to have to be able to work together to destroy these guys, and that's the main objective, because in order to beat a level, you need to destroy every single enemy. So how many enemy cards do you draw? Well, that is based off of this difficulty scale here from earlier. So because we're at 2, because in this example we're assuming that we have 6 players, you would look at the difficulty scale, it says 2, and then you draw 2 enemy cards. So 1, 2, and there they are. Oh, look at that, they're matching. Isn't that nice? You would just put them down, again, anywhere that everyone can see. I like to just put them right beside the environment card so that it's really nice and visible. And I'll just show you kind of just right beside the board, just like that. And so that is basically setting up an entire level. It's as simple as that. At the beginning of the game, you just set up those 2 scales here. Then you populate this board here with all of its tokens. You draw the cards, and then you start playing. What actually happens when you play? Let's cover what you can do on your turn. As a neat little helpful thing, we have this player action card. This tells you exactly what you can do on your turn. So if you ever forget, you can just refer to this. It'll give you a step-by-step instruction and all of the different options that you can do as well. But let's break this down really simply. The first thing that you do on your turn is you take your vacuole bag here and you reach inside. You find one of the tokens in there, you pull it out, and you just put it right there into the vesicle pile, this blue bubble. That's the first part. You can put the bag down. The next part on our turn is to take 2 actions. Now, there's a list of actions here at the back. Let's stick to the most simple ones here, movement and attack. So on your turn, you take your player token here, and I have 2 actions. So I'll say I move, and I move 1 space, that's 1 action. And my second action I will use to move to this space. Now this space here has a resource token in it. And so when I move into this space, I can actually pick up this resource token, and I can look at the back of it, see what it is, and then put it into the vacuole bag. Alright, that's important. You put it in the bag, not in the pile. And you just drop it in there, shake it up if you'd like, and that's it. And that is 1 whole turn right there. 2 actions and drawing from the bag. Every player is going to do this on their turn. Again, there's different options here for the actions, but for the sake of brevity, we're just going to stick to the movement option. Let's say in this example we have 6 players, so 6 people, including myself, will go do their turns, and then once the last player has taken their turn, the round is over. Now, this is a really big deal. This gives the enemies the opportunity to attack. So let's talk about the enemies real quick. I have right here the enemy cards that I drew for this level. The enemy card has attack scores and defense scores. Now you'll see that there's two values here, one that is white and one that is black. And that corresponds to the level. So if we look back at the difficulty scale, we can see that some of these spaces are white and the rest of them down here are black. While this transparent token is on the white ones, you use the white values on the card. And once it gets down to the black values, say down here to 5, and we move the token to there, then we're going to use the black values up top. But let's stick to the white ones for now. So we can see here, it has an attack score of 8. That means that this enemy is going to roll the dice, and if it rolls an 8 or higher, whatever's written in this box here is what happens to the players. So in this case, it says lose 100 CFU. So we roll the dice, and we rolled a 9. That means that the enemy is successful, so we drop down the CFU by 100. Now remember, if you run out of CFU, it's game over. So it's up to you as players to decide, do we let the enemies survive and risk them attacking us? Or do we stick around a little bit longer to try to collect some more resources? This is all risk and reward that you are going to have to make the decision for while playing the game. Now, the other thing that happens at the end of a round of play is any environmental effects. That happens after the enemy's attack. In this case, this environment card doesn't have any effects that happen at the end of the round, but some of them do. So you're going to want to read carefully the environmental effects on the card. So let's return back to the player's turn. What happens if I don't want to just move around the board and collect more resources? What if I want to destroy them so that they can't hurt us anymore? Well, the first thing you do is you're going to look at the enemies that you have available. It's important that you pick first which enemy you want to target. In this case, this guy. And I'm going to look at his defense score on this side of the card. This has a defense score of 6 here, and that means that when I roll the die here to attack, I need to roll a 6 or higher. I rolled a 2. In this case, that's not great for me because that means I didn't successfully destroy this enemy card, and he's going to stick around and cause maybe some more problems for us in the future. But remember, attacking only costs 1 action, so you can attack twice on your turn. In that case, I go again. I rolled a 9 this time. Defense score of 6 on here, which means I have to roll a 6 or higher. 9 is much higher than that, and this enemy is destroyed. When he's destroyed, you just remove him from play. You can just put him back at the bottom of the deck here, or you can create a discard pile for the cards as well. One final thing to note about enemy cards are their special traits. You'll notice that some cards have these special abilities that are drawn at the bottom of them, just like these two here. Some of them don't, like this guy. He has no special traits, so let's put him to the side for now. These other 2 cards you can see both have types of special traits here. Now you can find out what each of these special traits mean by looking at the final page of the instructions. That will outline what each of the different special traits are. So you can see here, because we were at level 2, we only had 2 enemies. One of them was destroyed already, and there's only 1 left. So you as the players will have to decide, what do you do with your turn? How do you distribute the different actions amongst you? Once someone destroys this last enemy here and removes them from play, the level is beaten and you've completed it. Now you haven't beaten the game, you've just beaten the level. So what happens when you beat the level? Well, there's 2 things. The first thing is you're going to move the difficulty scale up by 1. So we were at 2 and we move up to 3. So now the game's a little bit harder. You're going to face more enemies and it's going to get a little bit more challenging. Now the other thing that you're going to want to do at the end of a level is resolve what happens in here, in this vesicle pile. Now, in order to do that, we're going to have to take a look at the different types of resource tokens that we can find. There are 6 different resource tokens that you can get in Rogue Cell. I'm going to cover each of them here so you know exactly what they do. Starting here with the yellow ones, this is an ATP token. This is a type of energy that cells use in order to do basically everything. to grow, to multiply, move, all kinds of different things. You can use these to make your attacks stronger, to move faster and farther, and there's a bunch of other things too, which you can refer to your player action card or the rule books to figure out what you can do with ATP. Now, you can't pick up ATP from the environment board. You have to make them. And you can make them by using these blue CHO tokens or carbohydrate tokens. These are basically sugars or food that you'll find in the environment. And at the end of every level, for every 2 blue tokens that you have in this space, you get to add an additional yellow token, the ATP token, to your Vacuole Bag. Not everything that you pick up is nice, unfortunately. These 2 tokens here are bad. This guy is the phage token, and this is the free radical token. So let's cover the free radical token first. This guy is simple. If you have 1 or 2 of these in the vesicle pile at the end of the level, it's not that bad. They're not going to cause too much trouble. But for every 3 green free radical tokens that you have, you will lose 100 CFU at the end of the level. Now the phage tokens, they work the exact same way as those free radical tokens. For every 3 of these purple guys that you have in your pile, you lose 100 CFU. But there's a catch. If there's at least 1 purple token in your pile, you're going to add an additional purple phage token to your Vacuole Bag for the start of the next level. So over the course of the game, as you accumulate more and more of these phage tokens, it's going to be harder to stop them from multiplying and causing you damage. Now the last 2 tokens, this silver one here is the plasmid token, and this red one here is a protein token. Now plasmid tokens are very, very special because when you pick them up from the environment board, you actually don't add them to the Vacuole Bag. Instead, you pick it up, set the token to the side, and draw a plasmid card. Now a plasmid card is a special type of card that you get to hold on to, and it acts as a piece of equipment or an upgrade. And you can see right here that it has a name, it has an effect, and it has this hexagon at the top that resembles the other type of token that I mentioned, the protein token. Now, in order to use plasmid cards, you need protein tokens. In this case, because it says 1, I need 1. And so what you can do on your turn is, as an action, pick one of these protein tokens from the vesicle pile and place it onto your card. Now, in this case, again, this has a cost of 1, which means I only need 1 protein token, and it will activate the effect that is written on the card. So not only do you need to find these plasmid cards, you need to find protein in order to activate them. There is a second way to get plasmid cards, and that is by overkilling the enemy. In really simple terms, if you roll 2 higher than what is needed to destroy the enemy. So if we look back at our example again, we can see that he has the defense score of 6 here at the bottom. That means earlier, when I rolled that 9 to destroy him, I would actually draw a plasmid card and add that to my hand as well. So in our example here, we've destroyed all of the enemy cards, which means we've advanced to the next level, level 3 here. And just like at the beginning of the game, you're going to set up for the next level. And what that comprises of is, first of all, you want to take your Vacuole Bag, and you're going to want to take all of these resource tokens that are in the vesicle pile, pick them all up, and put them back in your Vacuole Bag. You don't lose them, they come back. Then you're going to want to take your environment card and shuffle it back into the bottom of the deck, and you'll want to draw a new one. Right? And then just alongside that, we're going to draw a new number of enemy cards. In this case, we're at level 3, so now we draw 3 cards, and I'm just going to place them right there next to the environment card. Now, just like when we were setting up the game, when it's a new level, we want to reset. The player token will go back onto one of those starting spaces, and you're going to take all of the tokens off the board, and you're going to get a new batch of them, mix them up just like I showed at the beginning of the video, put them back on all those white spaces, roll the die to figure out where those obstacle tokens go, and then you're all set for your next level. Now what I like to do, just so that the game goes a little bit faster, is while people are playing the current level, I get the next batch of tokens ready. So those 4 red tokens, the 4 blue, all of those, get those all ready, mix them up, and so that way, when it's time to populate the board for the next level, you can just put them all down, and you are good to go. Now remember, Rogue Cell is a game all about challenging you and seeing how well you guys can work together with your fellow players to get as far as possible. There's no way to actually win, it's all about how long you can survive. And every time you play the game, you'll learn something a little bit new, and you might encounter some new plasmid cards, some new enemies, and it'll be a great time. So thank you so much for joining me and learning how to play Rogue Cell, and I hope that you have a good time playing.